Thank you, Zoe, and I'm with her. I think that a lot of these things, Moxie, I think you could agree with me, where, you know, the contenders team, specifically Peps and Wisp, we don't really know how these two teams are going to play versus each other because one's from Europe and one's from North America, so we really haven't seen them on the same circuit until today.
Yeah, this is going to be a big deal for both of these two teams. Peps, obviously the vice champions. It is their sort of curse that follows them through every contender season. A very strong team, as the desk said, in terms of fielding. Crowned up on that Reinhardt, so they can play that type of brawl. Wisp, on the other hand, because they have Jkaru, who was previously actually in Europe with Young and Beautiful playing Winston. So both of these two players will be somewhat familiar with each other's playstyle, and that may be a significant impact in how these two teams operate around about each other, because obviously the Winston, in trying to deal with the Reinhardt, doesn't really deal with the Reinhardt directly, does he? You never want to be in that close quarters fight against the Reinhardt as a Winston, because what's he gonna do? Well, he's gonna walk straight through your bubble, he's gonna swing that hammer, and he's even gonna be able to go for the double fire strikes as you try and jump away and disengage, because hey, that goes for Winston bubble too.
Well, let's see how both teams opt to stick to their compositions, because, you know, metas are going to be different between regions as well. So 100% region can probably play something completely different than Team Peps. And like you said, I mean, Krondop on the Reinhardt, Zirion onto that Kariko. Who do you think comes on top here in this first fight, Moxie?
I mean, Team Peps, it feels like they're actually going to be going for that BAP. This is something that we do see commonly associated with that Reinhardt, because you have just the synergy of Amp Matrix and Fire Strike. It's so dangerous, so deadly. As Wisp going to be backing off a little bit, inviting Peps to taking that side lane duel so that Wisp can play a little bit more pressure. Rocket on that Tracer has a little bit more mobility than Naga on the Mei. Sustainability versus survivability for that Tracer to be able to dodge around the strikes coming through from Peps and try and pick up that first point control.
Point now unlocks. Rocket goes onto the backside. Jkaru is the one to touch it first, so he's going to take some damage. Unfortunately, cannot fully capture the objective, and it's actually going to be Team Peps with a member of their team on the point. Naga is Wisp opts to go for the long rotate, but they're diving onto Krondop. They're diving onto a heavy tank character, so it's going to be hard to actually get rid of him, and nobody's actually captured the point first. Rocket doing his movement, trying to avoid Hybrid, and he does so until now. Hybrid eventually checks him out. Top Rocket just a bit too long of a rotation for him, and now the advantage is fully in Team Peps' favor, although a nice anti-grenade comes through from Beak, but the lamp does avoid all that damage, and Zirion heals it back up, and Peps are the ones that capture the point first. They're going to back up, build up towards this window, and as soon as Wisp touches, they're going to deal with Jkaru or Krondop on the point, who charges directly into the Winston's face and takes him out again. So down another member, Peps pushes forward and just staggers off Wisp.
Yeah, goes for the punishment. Winston, if you get charged by a Reinhardt, unlike something like an Orisa, doesn't have the ability to fortify himself and stop that charge from actually stunning him up, picking him up, and slamming him into a wall. Beak unfortunately didn't have the nano boost to be able to save Jkaru either, but this is when the dive is the most potent, right? When that nano boost is there, when you can put it onto the Winston and send him into the... But oh my god, the bump from Alex connects onto Jkaru, and the ... comes out in chat as Wisp have to rethink their strategy again.
Kellex, are you serious, dude? I mean, people, I will not take any more Kellex slander after that boop from him. I mean, Wisp, they've not built any ultimates either, Moxie. Versus Peps, look how many ults they have.
They were relying on the nano-boosted Winston engage to be able to build up Primal and force Peps off of playing from that side lane, because the squishies could get for an environmental bit, and now they don't have that opening. They have nothing to try and push Peps away from just using this Ant Matrix to either heal Krondop on the front line, or just set the double Fire Strike elimination up, as the whale wall does come through from the Mei, allows Krondop to be able to charge back onto the point to safety, back towards this team. Zeron still absolutely untouched on this Baptiste, as Naga drops a Blizzard to catch on to the other members of Wisp trying to chase after the Rhine, and it's just a one and done fight. Team Peps continue to hold on control of this point, Wisp throwing themselves now onto the Reinhardt, onto this BAP, as Ant Matrix is there, setting up Deadeye from Hybrid to try and connect onto the Primaling Jkaru, who's gone into the backline to keep them occupied so they can finally try and out Krondop, but he's still standing.
Yeah, they do flip that point. Krondop does get killed by that high noon. Nice shot from Chopper to hit that shot, and they flip it at 99 Peps. A bit of a weird disengage there. I mean, Naga went too regressive towards that health pack with that Mei ultimate, where, you know, like you mentioned before, Krondop was getting that pocket from Zirion onto that point. And Moxie, Wisp have some ultimates. They could snowball this now.
Yeah, Abik's gonna have that nano boost. He's just hiding with his sleep, potentially to try and land onto Crandop. I don't think they know the Ana's there, but they're just gonna use it to push in with that nano boosted Winston, catching onto the members of Peps, isolating them away from the Reinhardt, so the rest of Wisp can just death fall onto the Rhine and then deal with the backline left vulnerable once the tank has been removed. This is just clean, clinical Overwatch coming through from Wisp, dealing with one problem and then turning to the next.
Yeah, this is weird now for Team Peps. I mean, they're staggering Zirion because they know he's close to that window already, so they might as well stagger him out. 40% now, probably about 2 to 3 fight territory for Wisp. I mean, Rocket's gonna have this pulse bomb, the engage from Wisp. It's a little bit hard now. They're gonna have to be a bit more precise with the beak hiding.
Oh,
they're definitely... Can they go fast too? They can.
Yeah, they can. The sleep, the anti-nade, Jikaru immediately coming in with that bubble as well, so Zarian can't even try and throw the lamp. It needs line of sight onto your teammate. That's why we see a lot of Maze holding onto that wall to be able to block off that Bap's utility. They use the Winston bubble to be able to deal with it, and unfortunately, Team Peps without that Reinhardt just have to go straight back to spawn. Smart play from Wisp. It does manage to buy themselves more point percentage and offset the ult charge available for Zarian as again, a beak, not 20 on the stealth, lands that anti on the sleep onto Zarion, so lamp is there, amp is up, but here comes the primal. Jikaru just comes through and makes sure that no one gets to stand behind the window and shoot through it, but Peps with the sustainability will be able to put themselves back on this point. Wisp without that tank, without that body to throw itself onto the point and soak up all of the damage from the cast on the sideline, are going to have such a tough job keeping it in play in overtime.
Yeah, Shatter comes through from Krondop as well. Nobody else now to touch. The Wrecking Ball is here. They're going to build that nano, but it's not going to come in time. Beat drop out to secure things here. Jikaru just kind of rolling around the point over time. Surely going to go to 0 here as we move on to the next round. Team Peps take round number 1.
Can we just get like bells attached to a beak? So that every single time it was like, oh, that's where he is. It feels like we're playing a game of Where's Wally, except Where's Anna? Everywhere we cut to this guy, and he's just hiding around the corner, punishing the fact that Crandop shield, unfortunately, only really covers one angle. And Team Peps now are going to be looking behind them 24/7. They might actually want to get some mirrors installed on the side of the Rhine shield so he can have those reverse glances to see whether or not there's an Anna sneaking up behind him.
Yeah, it's a bit aggressive. You know, let's see if he could do on this map. It's a bit more open, maybe towards the point he could do something silly. And Peps, Moxie, they're locking the same composition. They're running this Reinhardt Cassidy May versus Wisp, who opt to play the Cassidy with the Winston and rotate to the point first.
Yeah, Team Peps going for that high ground control rather than going straight to the point, even though they are playing that May. Wisp, however, not wanting to sandwich themselves and isolate themselves. A composition that thrives on mobility doesn't want to put themselves directly on a point that has a ceiling and immediately mitigates that Winston's jump mobility. As Team Peps now are more than content to just wait for the dive to reveal itself, deal with Jikaru, and make sure that Wisp's backline is just spammed out of holding this angle on main to keep the Winston up. There's the wall to isolate him even further, and Jikaru is gone.
I don't think I've seen a Winston get so focused out of a game as much as Jikaru is right now on Peps Hybrid. Nice shots on the chopper. His counterpart on the high ground too. 10% now for Peps. And, you know, Wisp, they might have to change some of the strategy here to deal with Team Peps, Moxie.
Well, Jikaru has been known to be able to flex onto things like the Reinhardt, but Wisp's entire strategy is very much hinging on this dive composition. It can still work, but the problem for them is that they're going to be taking so much poke damage to come through. There's Rocket just tapping on and applying that pressure onto the point, forcing Peps away from turning from that main and towards this Tracer, allowing Jikaru and a Beak to actually be able to move forward and get in position to actually heal this Winston. But the Beak is just taking so much damage. The lamp comes through, denying Rocket from picking up the kill. Possible's been built out.
Hybrid!
It's gonna be Hybrid that rolls back into his team.
Zirion could have not done anything more for Hybrid there, man. Like, Hybrid drops into the room thinking his support is going to be there. No, Zirion has to come back to lamp him. Then a pulse bomb connects onto him. I mean, Jesus, man, Hybrid. We've
all been that, especially now in the April Fool's mode before they disabled Ash. Dynamite used to be able to like jump from player to player, so you would be so annoyed when someone who had Dynamite and was burning out run it into you, and there again is a Beak in such a just a sneaky aggressive angle. This Ana is out for for blood will be able to land that nano boost onto Jikaru, but does actually put themselves into the Deadeye to pay for it. And Jikaru with that Primal now has to be able to pull in the numbers, or Wisp without that Ana, but Primal health will be able to keep him fully topped up. And even though a beak went down and was traded, it still works out long-term for Wisp.
Yeah, Wisp finally going to have that point control. Good job on them. I'm assuming it was Rocket to touch that point first and get that fast cap. And also, you know, a Beak to sit there hiding. Now we're going to have that percentage advantage. Naga's going to have May Ultimate. They have Beat Drop and Shatter. So they just have to close the distance now on Team Wisp as they just back up towards the point. Peps now move forward. Hybrid hit by the nade. Zerion's that early to Rocket, who has been a nuisance on this backline. Chopper has the high noon, but Rocket again finds Hybrid after getting rid of Zerion. And that's just an easy fight win for them. Last fight territory now for Team Peps.
Yeah, this Rhine composition really struggles when you just push even more distance between yourself and them. Team Peps are trying to rely on this Blizzard to be able to encapsulate the members of Wisp, but Wisp, they have the Deadeye and they have that range that's afforded to Chopper on the Cassidy with that buff on damage fall off that just allows them to keep backtracking and and set the Cassidy up to pick apart any member that falls away from the Reinhardt shield. There it is. Wisp isolate out the Baptiste, immediately go in for the kill. Don't have to play passive aggressive, don't have to play footsie around the table to bait out a lamp. Instead, with the Bap removed, they can just go straight for the throat.
Oh, that's a nice tie for Wisp there, and it's going to be 1-1. We moved to the map around number 3. But Moxie, I mean, this is the problem with Baptiste, right? You know, as a fellow support player, just is always so tough. It's like one of the harder characters to play because you're just continually focused down so hard, and especially if you're just, you know, the problem for Team Peps, I think, in my experience, is that it just feels like they're trying to rotate too fast and kind of not taking care of the steps in the way of, you know, leading towards that fight.
Well, for them, it was because they thought that they were in more control of it than they actually were. Like, Naga has that Blizzard, right? So Team Peps, their entire win condition is that they go into the point as fast as possible, they drop the Blizzard, they bait the flip, and Wisp can do absolutely nothing about it because then they're putting themselves into that Maze ultimate. And like you said, they go for the steps, but they go too fast. They try and cram everything in within about 3 seconds, as opposed to taking their time, waiting for Amp to come back online, for Kelix to be able to speed everyone, including that Bap, safely onto the point. And that's where the legs of the composition falls apart. Now, however, we're seeing just a full mirror. Krondop can play both the Winston and the Reinhardt. In fact, he's more universally known for his Winston. Yeah, that's good for Krondop, I think, to swap over to that, but interesting that they're going to take that mirror indeed. Wisp are the first ones onto that point. Rocket and Jikaru kind of slowly capturing out the point, but now that dive comes through on the Team Peps on that front line. Kind of even trades on both sides, but Krondop taken down low. Forces a lot of resources now out of Team Peps, so Wisp knows that. Decided to push aggressively, but Peps disengaged it quite well. However, Naga deep into the back line, tried to touch the point before it went into the favor of Wisp, in which it is now. Krondop low onto that point. Zerion building towards that Neta boost, but a Beak is the one with the first pop that Neta boost on the Chopper. They go aggressive. Pulse bomb comes out from Naga, does not connect, and Chopper goes aggressive, gets Hybrid, finds Zerion. Kelix is dead to something as well. Naga gets killed, or Naga gets a Beak, but Chopper, an absolute menace. 3K for him in that fight. Chopper sees an opening. Krondop jumps away from the rest of his team. It feels like just a little wrinkle in communication. Krondop bolts to the left. Everyone else on Peps try and track back to the right where that health pack is. And as a result, Chopper with that nano boost doesn't have to tear through a Winston's health bar, doesn't have to tear through a bubble. He can just catch on to every single squishy laid out in front of him.
Wisp playing towards this point do have that ultimate advantage over Peps, but they have a nano boost on Team Peps this side. Let's see how they opt to use it. They throw it onto Krondop, goes onto the backline, pulse bomb comes through, cannot find Krondop, but the damage there forces him to drop back to the point, so value is lost. High noon was committed from Chopper to zone there as well. Beat drops on both sides are committed. Sticky lands on the Chopper from that Cassidy, but Chopper just pumps out that damage. Does get Zerion, but Zerion trades him back. It's a 1-for-1. Support down. High noon came through, can't find Jikaru, who pops that final rage rocket. Finds Hybrid, but Naga is still doing work. Gets rid of the backline of Wisp, and now a Primal Rage, or a Peps, and the Primal Rage onto this point is continually staggering here. Peps trying to get rid of Jikaru, get him too low. He doesn't have the support to live, and Peps do flip that point.
but it stalled for so long. 75% picked up for Wisp, and Team Peps are starting at 0. They're only going to have a Primal Rage as well. They don't have things like a Pulse Bomb or a Deadeye to be able to find cheeky first picks and delay Wisp's push, and Wisp know this. They're going to just push in and apply that pressure, bait the Primal, and disengage as quickly as possible. Naga, however, is the savior. He finds 2. In all of the chaos that's going down in the disengagement, that Wisp is so busy, concerned about running away from the Winston, the Tracer gets the opportunity to find 2 squishies and sets themselves up to be able to cycle towards a pulse.
Zerion going to build towards that Nano. Wisp playing back as well with theirs. With the Beak, they decide to go through this high ground. And Peps, I mean, this has been such a close series, Moxie, where it feels like Team Peps, taking this mirror was a bit of a gamble, and they actually tossed their nade early to the high ground. Do find some value, but a Beak's there with a Nano of his own. Chronop goes low. Can he live? Barely. No. Chopper is there with the follow-through damage. Sleep Dart comes out to stop Jakaru on the rampage with that Nano boost, but they're already down their Winston, and the rest of their team is sure to follow as well as, Wisp just kind of clean things up on this point. The Nano was committed from Zerion. A little bit questionable there to do it so late.
I think they just want to finish things off as quickly as possible, right? Team Peps, they have the ability to be able to stall and stagger. Kelix is so close to Sound Barrier. Naga could potentially come in with a Pulse Bomb. Hybrid can immediately zone you away from that point with Deadeye. Wisp just want that flip because they have the means already built up. They have the Deadeye, they have the Pulse Bomb. Those are 2 ultimates that they can stagger Team Peps from being able to contest this point into overtime as Rocket goes in deep with the Pulse Bomb. Doesn't find the stick, but it still keeps Peps sequestered up on the high ground without actually getting to challenge the space.
Naga now with the Pulse Bomb of his own. I like how Rocket kind of goes for these Yeet Pulse Bombs. Naga towards this backside looking for the Ana. Can't find it. Actually can't. Wow, off the ground. Forces a Beat to run back into that Pulse Bomb now. Comes for the peel as well. Naga, nice job. Nice understanding of what's happening in this team fight. To have the presence of mind to fall back and peel off Jakaru gives Team Peps a pretty fast retake versus Wisp, who didn't have the opportunity to use any ults.
Yeah, I call it the sheepdog strat, where you just corral the Ana towards just stepping into the Pulse Bomb, because either you step into the Pulse Bomb and die, or you stay towards the Tracer and you get 1 clipped. It's a really tough position for an Ana to be in when you don't have things like the nade and the sleep dart to be able to defend yourself. Wisp, however, are in final fight territory, but Peps in control of this point are also careening towards final fight territory. Hyper's going to have a Deadeye, Condolf coming in towards that Primal. They're going to have stall, they're going to have stagger, they're going to have survivability, but they don't have a Winston that's awake at the moment. A Beat comes in with the sleep, lands the anti-nade, and does the follow-up. Rocket chases down where the Winston jumped off to, and Team Peps are tankless.
They don't have any tank in that situation. The Sleep Dart came through on Jakaru, but with that Nano boost, you can't kill that Winston fast enough with the high noon. It doesn't lock on fast enough, and now Wisp in a very, very strong position. Nobody else can touch for Peps either. And we have a series on our hands now, Moxie. Wisp take map number 1.
I would be very surprised as well if we actually see the retreat back to that Rhine comp to come through from Team Peps. I think from here on out, it's just going to be Winston Mirror. Because, like we said, Crandop is universally known for his Winston. He got picked up by EXO all the way back in December for Run It Back series in Contenders because of his Winston. Because KSA, no matter how good a tank player he is, he has never really been a Winston player or a Reinhardt player. That was where Crandop was coming in for this team to be able to sort of iron out some of those absences of tank players that KSA was able to bring to the table. And from here, it's probably just going to be Winston versus Winston, mirror for mirror, Ana for Ana, because these Anas today are on absolute fire.
They are disgusting, and we're going from map to map, guys, so don't go anywhere. We'll be right back after the short break for that map number 2 between Team Wisp and Team Peps. I love that skin of Junkrat with the googly eyes. Next map, we're going to Blizzard World, and obviously after map number 1, Moxie, Wisp, you know, really tough victory there between them and Team Peps. Team Peps really brought it to them, you know, taking him to that round number 3, but Wisp eventually came through with the victory, although Peps, I would say they looked like the favorites throughout that map. You know, coming to Blizzard World, what do they have to adjust? You mentioned a Winston comp for Team Peps to potentially lock that throughout the entire time instead of playing the Ryan. Do you think they still do that?
I think they do. I think they absolutely do, because like we've seen the kind of Ana that Abik is, right? He's just going to hide around these corners. He's going to anti you. He's going to sleep you. And then that means that that Reinhardt, that presence that Peps are relying on creating that space to be able to work off in terms of that frontline brawl and bullying the Winston out before the dive can even get into motion. That's all removed, which is why we're seeing Team Peps here forgo the Reinhardt entirely and field the Winston instead.
Okay, let's see if they actually manage to take a victory out of this. And Rocket, you know, on the opposite side, probably going to stick towards that. I mean, he looked so good on the Tracer with Chopper, on the Cassidy as well. So, you know, for Team Peps on this defensive side, Moxie, I mean, do you think they actually do better than they did on the previous map with this Winston comp?
I think so. Like on the defense, as things like in Ana, you have that opportunity to choose your hiding spot. You can make it really hard for Wisp to be able to dive onto you. You can play around Hybrid. Naga is going to have a lot of flank angles available as well. If Wisp gets stuck up in this choke for any time too long, then Hybrid gets a shooting gallery from the high ground, and Naga can either flank all the way around steps and try and catch onto the back line, or you can just go straight for the throat through choke, as Wisp have spotted out what they're going to run into, and they decide they're just going to mirror.
Yep, the mirror yet again. Very aggressive angle for the side of Team Peps over to this top angle just to continually poke as they come through the choke. And the nade trying to look for it on the back line does find the Ana, but she's in a pretty safe position. The Tracer's there with the follow-up. Do they get the kill? Krondop goes very low actually on this front line, and the damage is there for Wisp on the counter engage. Chopper finds Naga. They rotate towards this point. It's a very fast push. Team Peps, they're going to wait for Naga and re-engage at about 2 ticks for Team Wisp.
Yeah, Wisp being able to push Hybrid so quickly off of that high ground is the real stonker for them right now, because now they're the ones in control of choke, and Hybrid goes down to Chopper, who's waiting for that Cassidy to poke their head around a corner, and Team Peps just have to try and die as quickly as possible without fielding too much ult charge to the side of Wisp, who once again are going to have that high ground. If you have the high ground as a dive team, you're always the one in control, because one, your Winston has that space to be able to safely maneuver into, and two, your Cassidy gets to poke before the Winston can even jump down. So you're not starting at the dive from 100% of a health bar. Instead, Jikaru can come through and finish what Chopper's already started.
Very good point. Yeah, great job from Wisp to play around Chopper, enable him and Jikaru over to the top. Just continually pumping in that pressure, making sure that Peps don't get a good angle towards that cart. They actually toss the Nana boost, go for a blind jump over the top side onto this Lucio. The peel is there from Kelix, from Wisp in the side of Grapes, but the Nana boost eventually is going to run out, and meanwhile the Nana boost on Krondop, Jikaru was through, but Hybrid actually gets Jikaru. Pulse Bomb comes out from Rocket, lands near Hybrid, actually gets him out of the fight as well, so it's a 1-for-1 trade. No more cast on the side of Team Peps, and Chopper is showing why it's so important, but a beat goes down on the opposite angle to a nice anti-grenade from Zerion. Although it's a 1-for-1 trade, Wisp, they're still pushing this cart, and Chopper's there with the follow-up on Kelix, who was the only one there to contest. Now Wisp rotate around. They think they can win this fight. Zerion caught off on this off angle, but actually gets the nade. Krondop with the follow-through damage, and even though Wisp were in a great spot, they actually managed to lose it. Jikaru does find Zerion, but Chopper has to rotate towards the point alone and get killed.
Yeah, but the problem for Team Peps is that they might have won the fight, but they sacrificed so much distance on the cart to be able to pull it off. And now they can't play as proactively as they want to, because you've always got the concern in the back of your head, hey, Wisp might be able to backcap this. They might send Rocket around all the way of this point. You can actually see Peps right now. They're not really positioning themselves as much on the high ground as they want to. They're having Naga keep an eye on the off angle to see whether or not Rocket is taking that approach and looking to backcap so that Peps have to turn around.
Yeah, there's that backup you mentioned already on that cart. Now towards this top side, Chopper tries to engage, but he's taking shots from Hybrid the entire time. Who has that high noon? Sleep Dart surely going to be available. Early dive to pressure up Hybrid from the high ground, who drops down lower, has a solid angle, but waits for that beat drop to eventually run out, because he knows Jikaru is going to come in with that Primal Rage and disrupt everything. But now 2.9 meters left. Both Tracers fighting each other with their Winstons. Cart moves a little bit farther, but Naga and Krondop still on this cart. Dive comes through from Jikaru, who's forced to use that Primal Rage because he's hit from an anti-grenade. Pulse Bomb now comes through from Rocket, potentially onto that. Cassidy does find it, but the Nana Boost stay keeps Hybrid alive. Sleep Dart came through, by the way, onto Krondop on the low ground, who is continually on a beak, but pops that Nana Boost onto Jikaru, and that's enough to give them those 2 kills. Chopper and Jikaru get more value than Naga and Krondop, and the Primal Rage was committed to try to stop this cart, but it pushes on through to that third phase.
It is a lot of number. There is many discussions about the definition of what exactly a C9 is, but absolutely, that is the entirety of point B is a C9, and Wisp are more than happy to be able to pull that one through as quickly as they did, because point C on payload maps and hybrid maps especially is where things get really tricky to be able to finish things off. The defenders, especially when they're running dive, they just get out of respawn so quickly back into that fight even faster. You really do want to have as much time as possible, as a gorgeous anti-nade connects onto 2 members of Peps, forces them back, forces them towards the awning of that building, and as a result, Krondop just does not have the movement to be able to disengage. He doesn't have the scenery to be able to fully pull off that jump back to his team, and he's down.
They're getting staggered now. Just Jikaru continually going to push towards this spawn, has the pocket as well. 3 minutes and 20 seconds left. It's a blistering fast time for Wisp. I mean, they do lose a member here, so they do have to slow it down. Naga is just going to look for a potential dive onto Zerion on this backline with Jikaru. They see where he is. They've been continually going for these blind dives. Nade goes out early, so Abik doesn't have a lot of peel for himself, but the Nana Boost for Abik is available. Now is able to use it on Jikaru, who goes onto that Cassidy, who's aggressively far forward. Kellich drops that beat drop, though, so it enables them. But Jikaru, with that Winston ultimate drop, but he slept! Haidu comes through, who woke him up? Who woke up the dang Winston? He was for Hybrid there, but now he's slept, and Hybrid's the one in pressure on this car. Has to get that nano boost from Sirion. Pulse bomb available from Rocket, but knows it's not going to be enough damage to just throw it onto a nano boosted Hybrid. Beat drop from Grapes now gives Wisp that aggressive push forward when they have that ultimate advantage. Drops the pulse bomb now onto Hybrid. Nothing's there to save you from Rocket, who also finds Krondorf in. Like we mentioned, the time bank was so good for Wisp. They're going to close out this map with a very fast time. Looks like 2 minutes and 17 seconds.
Tell you what, who woke the Winston is going to be the largest asked question on that team right now, because like, it's always the worst as an Ana too, right? Because we both know, we both are support players, like you said, Dustin. We know the pain of sleeping a target that's about to hit into a primal and then someone wakes him up too early. Sometimes you have the excuse of like, oh, well, we have a Moira on our team and she was already right-clicking, or we have a Zarya and they were already beaming. Peps don't have that excuse.
They don't, especially when it was going to be a free kill for the Haiyan. Maybe not, because he had the nano boost, right? Takes a bit longer. But yeah, it's a pretty rough situation there. And please, man, more of Team Wisp was a Beak type C9 as well. It's just going to be like a consistent amount from the replays. Actually, we're going to see what happened. Okay, Zerion fell back, pocketed Hybrid. Here was that Winston Slep came through.
It's the boot.
Is
it Calyx?
It was the magnetic grenade! It was Hybrid himself! It was the man who would have benefited the most. There's no way. That is crazy.
Oh no, that is absolute tragic. The magnet went off before the Deadeye could properly lock on to the Winston and confirm the kill and stop the primal from going through.
This is the problem with modern day Overwatch. You know, all these players are worried about getting max APMs. You know, it's like he's trying to get as many actions per minute. Hybrid making sure he gets the dang magnetic grenade off before he tosses in free high noon.
That's so unfortunate, but Peps now just have to wash that moment from their minds. They're attacking now. They have to be able to set a good time bank. This is what's going to be at the forefront of their thinking. Wisp set such a good time. As you can see, Wisp just setting up. Jkaru is separated from his team, but they don't really want to dive him at the moment, as Hybrid is going to now look to occupy that space that the Winston was currently sitting in, using those boxes, making sure that he doesn't get poked down by the members of Wisp sitting on the opposite high ground. And it does force the dive. Jkaru now actually has to come backtrack his step to clear that casting off, holding that angle. And the rotation from Peps, unfortunately, the Winston bubble leaves the Ana vulnerable. Zerion goes down, and Wisp once again capitalizes.
Yeah, nice nades from a Beak. I mean, he's been kind of a standout Ana in this series so far, just consistently hitting those ATs from across the maps or hidden sleep darts on Ilios, right? That's exactly what you want out of your Ana. And he's also, Moxie's been able to build these nano boosts so fast. That's what a lot of pro teams look for, is these Anas that can build those nano boosts very fast.
See, I wonder how much of Peps is not really being able to pull off those rotations quick enough to keep Zerion alive is impacted by the fact that they were planning on running into this tournament as a Reinhardt Brawl team.
Right.
Because it does feel like they're looking for the rotations that you would look for with a Rein Shield as opposed to a Winston to peel for your Ana. Speaking about peel, Zerion's going to need some peel right about now. Anti-nade connects right onto him and he doesn't go down, which is an absolute miracle for Peps, because it does mean that they can continue to hold this position and now look to dive onto Wisp.
There's that nano onto the back line. The peel is there. Pulse bomb comes out from Naga, connects onto Chopper, but Rocket trades back Krondorf. However, all of this damage from Jkaru is just too much for Team Peps to deal with. They're all far too low and eventually are going to fall here. Hybrid takes a bit of his own damage from his own grenade. 2 minutes left now for Team Peps on their tech.
Yeah, again, it's just the backline getting caught a little bit separated away. Hybrid is playing all the way on the side, looking to set up an angle for that Deadeye. Zerion thinks that having that access of health back is going to be more than enough to keep him alive for the Cassie to be able to peel back. But the nano onto Jkaru just seals the Ana's demise. And we're even now seeing that Peps are just struggling to be able to make these rotations. Zerion does have that nano boost built up. It can go on either to Krondorf to be able to isolate his health bar when he looks for that dive. I would rather see it go onto Hybrid so that he can try and use this Deadeye to zone Wisp even further away, but there's the zoning potential. It is the Winston. This to build Krondorf's primal up a little bit faster. As it's actually going to be a sleep dead onto Calyx, which means he can't stand Barry to save himself.
Oh my god, what a sleep and follow-up damage from Rocket. I mean, Wisp are just dismantling Peps. They do get a tick, however, Peps, but I guess, you know, a little bit of a bright side for them. They only use that nano in that fight, Moxie.
even bigger of a bright side, Calyx got slap darted before he tried to hit Sound Barrier. So he does still have the ultimate. He just got slapped and then immediately just evaporated by Wisp before he had the chance to use the ultimate. So Peps will still have that one in play, and they're gonna need it. 50 seconds left. They do not have enough time to wrangle together another coordinated dive. This has to be the moment that they find that value. Pulse Bomb comes on to Chopper, chunking down to Cass's health. Does mean that he's not able to push forward aggressively with that Dead-Eye, but he's still alive and he's still firing.
Yeah, nice nano boost on the Chopper to keep him alive, but Naga did eventually find a beak, so he doesn't have that support that he so desperately needs in Peps. After a lot of time was spent eventually capturing out this first point, they do so. 23 seconds left out of that time bank. 2 minutes and 50 seconds now into second phase to eventually full cap. But Moxie, I mean, Wisp have a fantastic time bank even on their side.
I mean, cycle through what, 30 seconds, and Team Peps are going to have less time to try and finish this map out than with what Wisp were able to be left with when they fully push through. This is a really tough spot for Peps, just if they have to go through another round of overtime. Hybrid does have that Dead-Eye, however. He does have that snowball potential, but Wisp are just not allowing him access to the high ground to be able to set it into motion. Rocket comes in with the Pulse Bomb, connects it onto the Ana, knows that Sound Barrier isn't going to be there to save them, and as a result, Peps have just lost the access of the space to the ultimate that could have immediately broken them through that choke.
And now they just have to wait for their teammate to come back alive. They're going to come back now too, but yeah, like you mentioned, they're in a rough spot. 2 minutes left. However, Jakaru with that primal edge, do they want to commit towards this fight and actually get a fight? But yes, they can actually. And toss the grenade. It lands on the Hybrid. Nice nade, but the sleep dart comes through barely to keep Hybrid alive. The primal edge then forced on Jakaru. A peek does find Naga on this backline, and Jakaru gets zero. And even though they were a bit split, it works out for them because Hybrid used this high noon late.
This is what they wanted to. They wanted to bait out that high noon because Team Peps, they're all stuffed up in these side rooms. They're not really getting isolated fights against the members of Wisp, so they're not getting poke phase. They're not building up ultimates. Siren does have that nano boost, but it's all they've really got to be able to work with in this next fight, and is going to have to go on to Crown Up if it wants to actually dive in and eject Wisp from this high ground. Otherwise, Team Peps is just not getting through the choke again.
It's just so predictable, but it's actually working out for them. They avoid the sleep dart from a beak. Naga gets the nice little 2K in that fight, 3K now, and they do find the kills, but Wisp, I mean, this was kind of a calculated loss on their part, wasn't it?
Yeah. I mean, you've already dwindled Team Peps down. They had, what, 2 minutes and 40 seconds when they actually got that payload moving, and now they're almost down to a minute. Wisp are going to have another 2 fights at least with how quick and mobile this composition is playing from. Naga, by the way, doing such a good job of just going for that backline and pushing onto a beak, but the nano is already built up. It's already onto Jakaru, and again, Wisp just push back onto the payload. Team Peps do not get the opportunity to set into motion the dive first, and as a result, the dive falters.
It keeps happening for free almost versus Team Peps. They're just letting a member die. Pulse Bomb comes out into Jakaru, though, so Naga actually turning the tides of this fight when it looked so bad for them. But Rocket, Pulse Bomb coming to the back line, lands it! That's a high score for him on to Zerion, and that's just going to reset Team Peps no more and in this fight. 16 seconds left. They're going to have to fight with this beat early, Moxie.
That might not just be a high score, that might be a game over. Team Peps have 10 seconds left. No ultimate to work with other than a Sound Barrier to try and sustain Hybrid long enough to hit the shots to build up into the Dead-Eye, but Chopper already has his Dead-Eye. Wisp already have access to the high ground, and Team Peps don't have the time to dive onto them to push them off of it. They have to throw themselves onto the cart. Naga is just relegated to pushing that payload to make sure overtime stays into motion, and here comes Chopper. The off angle from the Cassie is that he's looking to catch onto these members of Peps and deny them the space. Naga goes so low, has to back over towards the health pack, and his Crowned Up now has to fall into position to actually push up towards his absence.
The snipe, though, from Krondop. High Noon comes through to deal with Jakaru, but can't find that follow-up damage. Actually, now can get rid of Jakaru in last second Peps. Usually you don't see hero plays like this on Blizzard World because of this high ground. It's so hard. Hybrid, nice shots, by the way. It's so hard to actually get that last second push on when that high ground is all in the advantage of Wisp. Could Team Peps fully cap out here?
I mean, they have to do it in one push. They can't afford to be reset. They can't afford to regroup. If they do, we're going to see that time bank just down to 0, even if they manage to pull off all 3 points of Blizzard World. They do have ultimates, however, they do have snowball potential. They've got the nano boost, so Zoran doesn't have to put himself into too aggressive positions where he might be taken down early. Naga already has the pulse bomb. Wisp are going to be very much vigilant of that, as you can see him just coming in, putting that little bit of pressure onto Wisp so they don't get to sit on that high ground and make sure that Chopper has that space to find the first space. click. Instead, now Team Peps are the ones in control. They make that dive, they take the initiation, they take the space because of it.
Yeah, nice sleep does keep the rest of their team alive, but nice engage from Team Peps. However, you know, he's going to keep onto that nano boost, ready to go in towards this fight. We've seen these nanos just immediately find impact after landing onto these Winstons. There's that nano. Blind dive goes aggressive, but actually no value this time for Team Peps. Fantastic disengage, but this means there's going to be no time left on the clock for them. Peps are building up some ultimates. Now 20 seconds left. Push towards that high ground. Pulse bomb from Rocket. Is it going to land again? Nope. Nice job by Zero to avoid that pulse bomb. Rocket has to get out of there with his life. Gonna get that health pack, but Hybrid is aware of that Tracer. Now, onto this front line. Hybrid has the high new, no more bubble. Does he go aggressive with it to create some space? Because Kondrop is here with the front right, looking for Grapes. Does Grapes get out? No, he doesn't. Zero, a nice follow-up shot. 0 seconds. Now, overtime ticks down. Kondrop falls back to his team. Grapes is gonna have that overtime spawn. So no Lucio. Chopper, high noon behind noon. Bubble be bubble. Who comes out on top? It's the one with the beat drop because Zerion finds Rocket. Wisp have nothing here. High noon does get Troned off, but it might be not enough. Grapes on this point, they do have double supports, no tanks available. As long as they stagger here, Hybrid with the nano boost has to go ham. Chopper does find Calyx. Hybrid gets Grapes. Can he get the follow-up? And he does. They cap out the map, but no time, Moxie.
Oh, such good target focus. Grapes goes down 6% away from Sound Barrier. Sound Barrier comes out from Wisp, that entire result just goes to an entirely different reward, and Wisp walk away with the full map win. Team Peps, like you said, they were able to pull off the full push, but they did it with 0 time left. So now we go to the absolute worst state for a dive composition to be in. Wisp need 1 tick, and that means that Peps don't get to go proactive, don't get to give up that space because they cannot risk the fact that Wisp could just send Rocket onto that point, swipe 1 tick, and walk away the victor in this series.
Guys in chat, make sure to get your C9s ready because I'm sure we might see one today. Although, you know, it's always those weird situations where you expect a C9, they just don't happen. You know, right? They just don't happen a lot of times. But Team Peps, Moxie, what do you think? They're sticking with the same comp instead of maybe swapping to a more counter dive composition.
I mean, I'm just concerned because Wisp, like, they have 2 minutes and 17 seconds. Chopper was teasing the Widow, swaps back to the Casty, but reality is, if he rolls out on that Widow just for an initial grappling hook shot and finds one of these members of Peps, they don't make it back in time. They're gonna have to swap, if it's a squishy support, onto something like the Kiriko to be able to TP through. But speaking of TPs, there's Wisp using a Symmetra TP to save time that they really don't actually need to save. They have so long to be able to pick up just 1 tick, and then anti-nade from a beak immediately pushes Peps off of the high ground yet again. They have to backtrack straight to point.
Yeah, it does give Zerion some ult charge, however, on the opposite side. So at the same time, Wisp use that advantage to just push all the way towards this point. Naga is the only one to touch. The ticks start ticking, and now at the same time, Peps go for that aggressive engage. Look for the anti-grenade. It lands on the Grape. Does it find anybody else? It doesn't look like it. Naga in that 1v1 of the point with Rocket. Rocket still has that recall, and Wisp just want to keep putting this pressure on towards this point. No ultimates just yet. A beak building that nano. So is Zerion. Dive comes through from Kondrop. Bubble committed. No bubble for Jakaru just yet. Nano now available. Probably going to go onto this Cassidy towards this point. No, is he looking towards that Winston? Yes, it looks like it. But over the top side, Hybrid is pumping that damage. Now comes that Nano, but the anti-grenade from Zerion lands. Sleep Dart comes through onto Jakaru, and that's already 1 fight down, potentially now for Wisp. They have a minute left, Moxie. Team Peps, could they do this?
That was the toughest fight as well for Peps. That was when they weren't coming with ultimates, when they weren't coming with that superior high ground control to try and pick out a member of Wisp when they're trying to push on towards that point. They've got the Deadeye, they've got the Pulse Bomb, that can buy themselves the time to build up the stall with the Primal, with the Sound Barrier. Wisp, if they want to take this point, have to do it in this next fight before those ultimates for Peps comes online.
Pulse Bomb does not connect for Rocket. Naga over the top side looking for his, but it's in fact coming back with the peel and get Jakaru. So now 36 seconds, no tank. Wisp, they're going to reset fast and try to get on their fight, but Peps aren't letting them. They're getting that pressure towards this backline. They do get him out of there. 28 seconds left, so they do live, and they're going to have Jakaru for this next fight.
Peps have all of their ultimates as well, barring that nano boost. And if Wisp don't manage to pick up this point, we go to another map because it's a draw between both of these teams. Jikaru, however, does have that primal, does fall extremely low to poke phase from Peps, who initiate with dive first. Whisper displaced. They don't have the time to set Chopper up into a motion for that Deadeye because Crandop comes off the primal first.
Oh, the ET grenade though does land 107 HP. Chopper comes to this point. High Noon beat drop 3 on the points. Peps here to touch. Krondop goes really low, even though the beat drop was out early. High Noon from Hybrid. Can he connect? No, the bubble's there to keep them alive. Another anti-grenade lands on his rear end. Krondop goes down. Wisp trying to close it. Hear it now into Peps. They're not trying to go to the next map. Pulse Bomb doesn't connect onto anyone on this back line. It does actually just end up getting Naga out of this fight as well. Nano boost to zone. And Team Peps, it looks like their end is now. Peps are going to win, or Wisp are going to win 2-0.
It's so close. It really is so close. Peps are almost able to pull out what should have been impossible when you look at the two different time banks for both of those teams. But unfortunately, Krondop goes down first. And that is the player that you don't want to go down when you're in an overtime situation. Tracer, yeah, if you lose the Tracer, you lose the ability to be able to just blink and keep recalling onto that point and keep it into motion. But the Winston is the thing that's stopping Wisp from uniting under one front and pushing onto your backline. And the second that Krondop goes down, we see that just switch in the motions of the Tracer. Rocket goes straight for the backline with that pulse, pushes the Anra away from being able to have that vision onto the team, and as a result, all of the composure that Peps have, all of that planned, coordinated focus on keeping Wisp at bay while keeping that point in play goes up in smoke.
And guess what? Our player of the match is Rocket, guys. I mean, what a fantastic game from him on Wisp as well. The overall team play from them was just an edge better than Peps. And this guy, I mean, we talked, the desk talked about, I think Zoe, Danny both mentioned how Rocket yesterday was insane. By the way, these packages were so huge from Rocket onto Hybrid into Kelix and this backline. I mean, Moxie, what can you say about this guy's Tracer play?
He's like soon. You know, Desk, we're talking about how these are players that we expect to see popping up into Overwatch League in times that are pretty soon, I'm assuming. But he really does just remind you of something, the way that he plays objectives, the way that his pulse bombs always seem to have significant impact, the fact that he's one of the main reasons why Wisp picked up so much distance on point B without actually needing to fight a single member of Peps. The guy can do it all.
He can. 8,000 damage for him, 20 elims, only 3.5 deaths per 10, and I mean, just fantastic gameplay from him. And these Tracers are just so dang good now. It's so hard for me to watch them because I'm like, first of all, my wrist would be destroyed playing a Tracer, but also they're just so intelligent with their recalls, with their positioning. It's just overall Tracer gameplay has reached another level. But guys, we're going to short break. When we come back, we'll be here with that match number 3. We're going to have Overwatch League teams again, so don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
Oh man, I want to have goggly eyes.
I just love those goggly eyes.
Can we have goggly eyes, please? I need goggly eyes. That's just, it takes very little to like brighten my day. Goggly eyes, 100% do that. Is it goggly eyes or googly eyes?
I think it's googly. Is
Googly.
it? Googly?
Yeah, I wasn't going to correct you, but you know,
I appreciate
but
that.
then you said it so many times that it kind of felt like we needed to address it.
I'm learning, all right?
Who cares? Same thing.
Same thing.
Yeah.
Anyway, moving on. Let's discuss the match we just got to see. It was our contenders clash, and we did expect a compositional, not mismatch, but at least a clash. And honestly, I was a little surprised heading into that series, and as the series progressed, to see the Euro Team Peps actually taking that Winston dive mirror. I kind of expected to see more Reinhardt out of them, or anything but that.
It was an interesting look by Team Peps. Obviously, we've seen them moving towards a lot of this Reinhardt or Ramatra style, but after the first round or two, they just sort of felt like they needed to match on this Winston, and that sort of enabled Jkaru and Rocket to really find their element and sort of take over this game. Obviously, this wasn't a blowout by any means. Overtime on Blizzard World, and obviously this one went to round 3 on Nepal. So very back and forth series, but at the end of the day, Team Peps getting that win on the back of a really solid performance by Chopper. He continually impresses me so far in this pro-am.
So I do have to agree too. Of course, like Rocket had so much impact on this match, and of course that is why he got the play of the match. But Chopper has been an impressive DPS as well, and there's so many other players like Abik as well. Like on that Ana had so much impact on this match too. So just overall, in general, I think Wisp had a fantastic match.
Yeah, and I do want to talk about Abik just a little bit more, because I saw some cheeky plays for him as the Ana. I think everyone's tried this at one point of like, shh, everyone be quiet. I'm gonna hide in the corner. So this is him going down, and he goes down to Kran. He's like, well, I'll show you, Kran Drop, and ends up hiding in this corner as the Ana. Doesn't do this once, but actually does this multiple times. So, a bit of prop hunt action and sort of a fool me once kind of back and forth with Crown Drop.
The twice I would have understood, but the thrice was like one too many to me.
That was the third one right there, and they definitely lost because Abik did that. So, maybe a little bit overzealous.
I mean, hey, if it doesn't work once, you gotta at least try. You gotta try it at least one more time, right? Yeah,
3 times the charm. Also, what a big brain move if it actually works out, right? Like, you're gonna look like a genius.
Yeah, exactly. So, I agree with Danny. Abik played a good match. Overall, I think Rocket and the entirety of Team Wisp just look very comfortable when they're able to play this style. They've struggled so far in the Pro-Am just because of how aggressive some of these Overwatch League teams and how mechanically better they can be. So I feel like this was really them sort of coming into their own a little bit.
Yeah.
And I just love having those kind of regional clashes there as well. I think it's fantastic for us to not just see those pro-am, those amateur teams, the tier 2 teams, sorry, the contenders teams, seeing them clash against the OWL teams, but also seeing different contenders region going up against each other. It's a lot of fun to watch.
Yeah,
because...
Go ahead.
There you go.
No, go ahead.
Okay, yeah, because usually there's very different styles that are coming up by both of these regions. I said it in the pre-show heading into that match. I'm surprised we haven't seen any of this Echo Farah stuff from Naga on Team Peps. It's something that sort of got them into this position to begin with, but something must have happened in their practice leading up to this tournament, not feeling comfortable in it. But I feel like that's just sort of lost a lot of things from them, because it doesn't feel like they have that ace up their sleeve in the same way that Twisted Minds did against the Houston Outlaws. So it's not a bad look by Team Peps, but I definitely think they were expecting to win this one over Team Wisp.
Yeah, I think what we want to see, I think all of us, was that, like if something doesn't work, for multiple matches, then we sort of want to see something different, right? Even if it's sort of out of their comfort. So I think that was what I was wishing, but I mean, and they did that. Peps did that today. They weren't sticking with just the brawl. So it was a better look for Team Peps as well, I do feel it.
Yeah, I do want to jump in here and talk about Team Wisp as well, because this is the team that just narrowly scraped into the Prime, but honestly one of the teams from the contenders regions that has impressed me the most. And Rocket, we've highlighted him as a player so much throughout this tournament. So I want to bring up a stat card here of just how well he's doing here on this Tracer. That's 10.8 final blows to only 3.5 deaths per 10 in this match. It's an incredible performance, and you can just see how aggressive he plays and how much confidence he has every time he's moving around the map, and that gives him so much. So, as much as Rocket isn't known as much for his flexibility onto a ton of different heroes, Tracer is such a strong hero, and being specialized in that character can just show how far you can go, even at the pro Overwatch League amateur level.
Also, I have to mention here, if you're looking at the stat card, that this might be the happiest
I was going to say that too.
we've ever seen. I got happy looking at that.
That's honestly the best photo I think I've ever seen.
Yeah,
like on a player.
He loves it. He loves his stats. He loves his life. Like this
just happy to be here.
Yeah, just happy to be here. We're happy to have him. So yeah, more of that, please. Now, speaking of things that we're looking forward to, or that we're looking at, or I don't know, there was a really good transition in my head and then I just completely dropped it. Either way, Danny, you know, you played the charades. You really impressed us.
I tried.
Shu did not get it. I do feel like that was an error on his end.
Yeah, that was his.
But you followed up, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I think tech issues cannot stop Danny Lim from getting the juice. So he went to harass Shu further on social media, and Shu actually gave us an answer. There you have it, Danny.
Yeah, he said, LMAO, I can't hear you, Danny. Sorry, just play for fun. For those of you that didn't know, I asked him on Twitter again, like, what I was trying to do with those charades. Like, you know, why'd you guys play the Junker Queen and the Pharah? And that was his answer. I guess, I think she wanted to say that they were sort of playing for fun, trying things out, you know, but it was unlucky. You know, unlucky close game. I don't know about the close game thing, though. And close game for first map on Ilios? I don't know, Shu.
Wouldn't call that unlucky either, actually.
Gets absolutely dumps it in the Pharah duel. Just unlucky.
Close game.
I love the meta game he has with his profile picture, though. Having a picture of your picture in an envelope. Wow, shoot.
It's very meta.
It's very meta. Very one step ahead of all of us. Now, we are looking ahead to our next match, of course. It's going to be another banger, or so we hope. This is the first look we get on Redbird Esports. We didn't get to see them play yesterday, but today they are back in action, and we're going to see them facing off against Twisted Minds, which was the first team we saw today. But first, let's talk Redbird Esports, guys.
Yeah, this is the first time we're actually going to see this roster at all. So we haven't seen Redbird Esports with their play, with everything that happened yesterday. This is an interesting team. So they have so many great players. They do like to play this brawl style with Gig. We just saw their starting lineup that had Moving Fishin, who usually comes in to play the off tanks, while Gig was coming in to play the main tanks when we saw them in the qualifiers. So this should lean towards them playing something more off tank focused. Maybe Ramatra if they're feeling more confident in that. But on the other side, we got Twisted Mind, Danny, and we know what we're expecting to see with this lineup.
If you see Lambda, that means we're going to see either Pharah or Echo. We've seen a lot of the Pharah style, and it's been working. You know, they didn't get the win today as well, but, you know, they are coming close, and that Pharah style has been working. I'm excited to see if this is going to work against the team that they're facing off for this match.
Yeah, like we saw how easily Toronto Defiant dispatched it, playing that Winston sort of dive style and pressuring the Mercy. I would not recommend, you know, Redbird is from the North American region where Pharah isn't as common. I wouldn't recommend taking the Pharah duel, especially after seeing what they just did to the Houston Outlaws. If anything, I'd like to see them come out with their own form of style of playing the game. And maybe that's why Gig isn't in the lineup. Recognizing if they try and play this brawl against the Pharah of Lambda, it's not going to work out well. So maybe something different here from Redbird.
Well, they did get a look at them, so maybe they had to change the game plan heading into this very one, as Twisted Minds did play earlier. For now, let's take a look at our predictions to see where everyone is going with this one. I went with the unknown because I like your risk. I like to gamble. Redbird Esports, I have absolutely no clue what to expect from them. So I'm just here to have a good time, honestly. Yeah. Redbirds, let's go.
Yeah.
Just like Rocket, just here for a good time.
Yeah.
I think this is going to be a closer one. Like, I actually watched a couple of Redbird's esports games. Vision was very impressive, so I'm excited to see what he could do. But I had to go with Twisted Minds. Lambda, the Pharah game is too strong. I had to go with Twisted Minds.
Yeah, I'm the same way. Twisted Minds. I was very confident in this team heading into this tournament, especially on the high coming off of that Houston Outlaws match. I think Redbird Esports has a lot on their plate to deal with this.
I just feel like, you know, we got birds always a good thing to pick in our league,
Bird.
right?
There's so many
That's
birds.
honestly
There's
true.
like there's some bird dominance, so I felt like Redbird coming in with like.
You know, I think
You're trying to justify it to yourself, not us right now.
I really am.
so. I think that's because we were talking so much about birds yesterday. Just
Yeah,
I had like 2 interviews
they're
about bird
nesting
week.
in my head.
It's just,
Living
every
in
time you
there.
hear a bird,
Redbird
it's like, oh.
Bird. Gotta go for any kind of bird will do. No, but I'm honestly very excited. Every single time we got to see a new team and seeing new players showcasing what they got, it's been super exciting. And I love that the first look we get at Redbird Esports is going to be against a fellow contenders team. I think it's always a bit easier to get a real idea of how well they actually play versus when they have to go up against Houston Outlaws, where you would expect that to be a one-sided affair. That said, though, don't go and rewatch map number 1 of today, unless you want to, I guess. But
I feel like, do you think contenders players they feel more pressured when they're going up against a fellow contenders team, or do you think they feel more pressure when they're playing against Overwatch League?
Yeah.
I think so. There's more pride and bragging rights on the line there, right, Costa?
Yeah, I completely agree. I think as a contenders team, you're weighing yourself up against another team when you're playing contenders team that you feel like you should beat and that you should be better than. And now that you're on the biggest stage that you can be on, I feel like everyone's trying to win that. While when you're going up against the Houston Outlaws, you're like, we take them out. We got nothing to lose here. If we win, we're the greatest team ever, like Trick Room. If we lose, everyone expected it. So I think it takes that pressure off for Redbird. So I think everything's going to be to play for in this one.
Sure.
Absolutely. Now, I went as the sole person on the desk for Redbird Esports. Maybe you get some support from our casters. Moxie, Dustin, who you got for this one?
Well, Moxie, what do you think? Who do you got? Who do you got here? What's going on? I mean, like, is it the brain or is it the bird? Who comes out on top in Twisted Minds and your boy Redbirds? I mean, they had the tornado the other day. Maybe that's going to lead them to the advantage today.
So this is a real, a tough one to call because, like I said, these are both contenders teams, but they actually haven't interacted with each other inside the contender sphere because, once again, it's an EMEA contenders team, Twisted Minds, up against an NA contenders team, which is Redbirds. And Redbirds are known for being very adaptation. Very, very smart, very good at figuring out what their opponent's win condition is and working alongside it. And I think that's why we're seeing Moving Fish instead of Gig come through, because Moving Fish does play off tanks. They also have a really nasty Sigma. They can play the Diva, but their Sigma, I think, and potentially even the Ramatra, which is what Custer is going to be looking out for, could potentially make it a lot harder for Twisted Minds' Farah composition to actually find flight.
So is it fair to say that you agree with Zoe's prediction in Redbirds here versus Twisted Minds, Moxie?
I would say it's fair to say that yes, I do agree that Redbirds are probably going to be the ones to come out on top. I think it's going to be close. I think Twisted Minds, if they can find that initial pressuring point with the Farah and isolate those targets out from Redbird Esports' backline, given the fact that they did lose one of their sort of staying players. Laya got picked up, obviously, by Valiant, so Deco has had to come through and play the Lucio. We might see a little bit of wrinkle in terms of communication off of that angle, and that's something that if a Farah composition sees, can just rip apart a team at the seams with.
Yep, and Labda, like you mentioned, in that game, so we're going to see a lot of that Farah, especially on this round. It's kind of interesting. I feel like we don't see a lot of Farah here specifically. Now, pretty much pummeling this backline of Visions, already looking for that early dive. Twisted Minds goes for that aggressive engagement, but they're still nice and healthy. Visions gets healed up by Renko to stay alive and add a lot of that peel, while Twisted Minds, they try to rotate towards that point. Redbirds just taking their time, allowing Visions to set up on this backline, but when you do that, that also gives Labda that first shot that he so desperately needs. However, Moving Fish, they pick off Labda on the opposite side. Lamp, however, is committed from Redbirds, so not a lot of cooldowns here to actually commit on to Nutella, who got that resurrect to give Twisted Minds that advantage, and they'll get that first fight win and the first fight cap.
Yeah, Graffin on the Sombra isn't actually going for the hacks to land onto KSA. Twice we saw the hacks go out onto Labda on the Farah. And while yes, it does mean that the Farah's movement is a little bit downplayed, it still doesn't deny the mercy to just allow the Farah to two-tap. And that's what caused Redbird Esports the problems that they had. They all pushed themselves into that side room trying to play away from this Tracer, and as a result, they played right into the Farah's spam. Lamp already going to be forced out super early on, and that just opens opens the floodgates. Here comes the pharmacy.
Yeah, that damage already on the Vision. Slay with the fall through onto Renko. And, you know, this is something we haven't talked about either with Redbirds, Moxie. They haven't played against a Farah team like Twisted Minds in North American contenders.
Yeah, because we don't typically tend to see Farah teams in NA contenders. It is something that teams really do go up against in EMEA to the point that they will actually contract players to be able to come in and play things like the Diva when they're going up against either Twisted Minds or O1 Esports. They will change their entire composition when they go up against these two teams, and Redbird Esports are trying to change once again to counter this Farah. The Sombra, though, that with the EMP, still not getting the hack to connect onto Lavdo, who with that nano boost wants to set into motion this barrage. There's defense ready, some moving fish, but it comes in too late with the Vision, and immediately afterwards you're out of Matrix. It still allows you to pick up Renko.
They just can't kill him. I mean, you just can't take care of Lab. That does get that boop off the map on the moving fish to 75%. They look a bit lost here, is it fair to say, for Redbirds, Moxie?
A little bit at the moment. But again, like you said, this is a team that aren't used to playing up against a Farah team. This is a team that aren't used to playing up against the pacing that Twisted Minds have as well. When they see a movement, they immediately move in to punish it. As there it is, UB trying to push in with that pulse bomb. Does go into the defense matrix and moving fish. This is an opening for Redbird, and they are able to catch out KSA before they're able to get back into the mech as well. This should be Redbird Esports winning the fight. This is the true test now. It's going to be Twisted Minds picking up 99%, so if they win a single fight, they are going to be able to walk away with this map. But Redbird Esports are in the driving seat now. They have the high ground, they have control of the spaces, and Labda is going to be a lot more vulnerable getting him into motion now that Redbird Esports can already set Vision up.
Yeah, but he's getting those snipes off from that top side angle. Kind of pushes Visions back into this room with the pillar to avoid those Farah shots. Window dropped from the side of Redbirds. They get KSA's mech because of it. That backline pressure from Grathen continually on KSA the entire time. KSA opting to keep playing to get his mech back here, but he's surely going to get dove on as he tries to remech. He actually gets it. He somehow gets the mech back. Pulse bomb comes out from UB, forces that lamp. Moving fish loses mech, has to use deep bomb. Will they go down here? No, it looks like they get mech back, but the high noon to zone for moving fish there somehow. Wait, how did he just get the high noon onto Labda through the top angle and the follow-up damage onto Slay? Redbirds, like you mentioned, Moxie, they're in the driver's seat and they're going fast.
It's that change as well. Redbird Esports, they stop hacking out Labda on the Farah and they go for the mech onto KSA. It's very similar to what Houston tried to do. Deny the resources that set this Farah composition up so that you can then deal with the Farah when there's no team to be able to peel for it. Because if the Diva is gone, there's nothing to defense matrix the 2-tap coming out from Vision.
Yep, now that nano comes up in Visions. Can he deal with it? The beat drop gives him that positioning to go aggressive. Meanwhile, EMP came through hot. Here comes that barrage, but the lamp saves